All right, so how does an actual supercharged Hellcat engine work? We're gonna go over that right now. I'm gonna tell you how they tell you it works in their terms, and then I'll break it down in simple terms how it works. So I already got the hood popped. Let me just get out and take a look at her. So with this engine, there's a lot that goes into the performance and how things work on this engine. So let me just get my phone, read to you exactly how they say online, how they like to tell you it works, and then I'll break it down into simple terms. All right, so the Hellcat Supercharger works by mechanically compressing intake air, which increases the air's density and allows for more fuel to be added. This results in a more powerful combustion, which is what increases the actual horsepower. So here's how the actual engine works. Air intake. Air enters through a 92 millimeter throttle body. Compression. The air is compressed and it moves from the front to the rear of the supercharger rotors. Compressed air. The compressed air is then shot into the supercharger case. All right, and then next is the intake manifold. The compressed air then turns 180 degrees and moves down into the cylinder heads through intake manifold runners. And then of course lastly the intercooler. The dual intercooler cores are located outside chambers on either side of the supercharger housing. So there is a cooler for your supercharger on these cars, and there's a cooler for the rest of the engine, as I've talked about before. So right here, hopefully my shadow doesn't show up, on the passenger side is the actual cooler for the supercharger. All right, so this cooler on the passenger side is all of your coolant for this supercharger specifically and solely only for this. And then there's another cooler that's here for the rest of your engine. So since this engine is so massive, it needs two coolers. All right, it needs a cooler for the supercharger specifically, like I showed you on the passenger side, and then there's another separate cooler just for the actual engine to cool it down, to keep it cool. All right, so to break it down in simple terms, your supercharger that is on the top that you see is forcing air. It is increasing the amount of air that can be fed into the engine. All right, that's what it all boils down to. So when you have like a red eye or maybe a demon, the supercharger is slightly bigger than the 2.4 liter supercharger that I have. It's bigger, so it's forcing more air into the engine. It's allowing the system to basically be fed more air, all right, your engine. So this supercharger alone can take great abuse. From what I'm hearing, this 2.4 liter supercharger can take more abuse than the 2.6 liter that's on red eyes and the 3.0 that's on demons. So because it's so much more condensed, so it's condensed air, it's not so open. So overall, these factory superchargers can produce incredible numbers, all right? Sometimes you just have a freak by nature. Some Hellcats are just freaks by nature. They don't need to be modified, all right? And this supercharger being a 2.4 liter supercharger, just this alone, this supercharger alone is bigger than most car engines, or most car engines that are on the road, like for a smaller car that's out there. A lot of these smaller cars that are on the road don't have an engine that's as big as this 2.4 liter supercharger, all right? It's massive. You cannot tell in this car hides it well when it's embodied within the framing of this car in the engine bay, but you get this supercharger outside of this engine, it is incredibly big. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. The supercharger is just forcing more air to be fed into the system, into your engine, so your engine can perform at a high level. And that's what it's all about. It's all about airflow. I'm a big NASCAR guy, and in NASCAR, it's all about downforce and getting as much air to go through your engine bay, to go through your grilling as much as possible to perform, to have those cars perform at a high level. And if people are in front of you, other drivers are in front of you, they are blocking your airflow, and it's called dirty air. So that's why a lot of times in NASCAR, people will get in front of you and block. One driver will block another driver to cut off his airflow, so while he's behind you, he cannot really accelerate that much. Right? His acceleration is altered because you as the driver defensively are blocking his air to go in through his actual grill. So you'll see that driver in the back dip off to the left or to the right to try to get clean air so he can perform well. And that's just pretty much how it works. It's an incredible system. It's incredible engineering. There will never be anything like this made ever again. You know, I doubt they'll bring these Hellcats back, but you know, it is off the charts technology when you really think about it. There's a lot of different components that I haven't spoke about that are within the build of this engine that I would have to have the actual whole engine out so you can kind of see it clearly. I can't really show you while it's in the car, but just breaking it down in a nutshell, that's how the Hellcat engine works. Most of you know this, some of you don't. Some of you probably just never really looked into how it really works. You just know about a supercharger and it makes a whine, but that is pretty much what it's doing. Like I said, people that are into these cars, that know about these cars, already know this, but a lot of people that are interested in these cars don't really know the details on it. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how it works. So that is going to do it for this upload. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.